Good evening. Calling to order the Committee of the Whole meeting for the School Committee on May 16, 2023. The time is 5 p.m. We'll all rise and salute the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Garcia, would you like to take a roll call?
Sure. Mrs. Stacy Bronson Rizzo.
Absent.
Mr. Michael Ferranti.
Here.
Mr. John Kingston.
Here.
Mrs. Aisha Milbury Ellis.
Present.
Miss Jacqueline Monterosso.
Present.
Miss Carol Tai.
Here.
Acting Mayor Patrick McKee.
Here. First item on the agenda is the consent calendar and approval of minutes. So, second.
Second.
Warrants.
Here. Not online.
I'll do my best to answer any questions. Matt was not able to be with us tonight.
I have no questions of this son.
Anyone have any questions?
No, sir.
No questions? Okay. Madam Tai?
Yes, I do. You know, and it's probably one that you can answer, Diane. I saw that there is a considerable amount of money on unemployment. Maybe it is not a considerable amount of money, you know, in the great scheme of things. But when I looked at it, I thought,
Can you show me which?
yes, well, I'm pulling out my stuff here. It's on page 3, I believe.
She said page 3.
On the warrants. You know what, why don't we just move on and I'll pick it up because it's not anything that's crucial. It was just in general, and in general is that unusual? Do we have a lot of people to whom we're paying unemployment? I mean, it would seem to me that we wouldn't have a lot of people who have left or that you've let go.
Yeah, and I know that those payments are done like on a cycle, not necessarily monthly. But maybe Mr. Franti.
Yeah, Ms. Ty, what happens is that you have to pay on every person that makes the first $15,000.
Right.
Then after that, you don't pay on it. So
Right.
depending how many people we have on the payroll and what the city's rate is, that's how to determine how much we have to pay.
Thank you. It's nice to have people who are in the finance business on there.
Miss Milbury Ellis?
Sure. I guess the question for me with the unemployment issue is whether we're contesting voluntary, with people who leave voluntarily, who quit. Sometimes businesses, don't necessarily challenge them, and that kind of goes under the radar, and we end up paying.
We challenge whenever we feel there's been an inappropriate claim made.
Okay.
I can tell you that in recent years, very few challenges have been held up by the unemployment division. So they've basically been allowing benefits for just about any scenario I can think of. But I think I did find the line item, Ms. Ty, and if I'm looking at the right thing, it's on line 49 of page 2.
Yes.
And it's $21,000, yeah.
And that's what caught my eye.
Okay.
That's a monthly
That's not too
expense, I
bad.
assume, right?
Quarterly.
Quarterly.
Okay. Yeah, that seems pretty, for the amount of employees you have, as you know, it's based on the amount of claims that get averaged out. Any other questions regarding warrants? Hearing and seeing none. Financial reports. Okay. All right. Hearing and seeing none. Food service financials. None. Communications, there were none. Enrollment update? None.
I can just say that I'll give a year-end enrollment update next month. That's another report that we typically do around quarterly.
And personal items. Not personal items, personnel items.
Mr. Chairman, one question, please.
Mr. Ferrante.
Thank you. Dr. Kelly, are all the full-time paras hired now? Or
I'm
we still
going to
hiring?
defer to Dr. Galucci. I know that we got a recommendation for one at the Rumney Marsh today. I believe that might leave one more position open, or that might have been the last one.
Two more.
Two more.
Okay.
So Rumney is conducting the second round of interviews. We fully exhausted all of our candidates for the first round. I then put it back out to the whole para membership that there were 3 spaces still open at the Rumney. Miss Bob got applicants. She hired one today. I anticipate we'll hire the final 2 coming soon.
So both of them at the Rumney that you're looking to hire?
Yep, all 3.
Okay, thank
Minus
you.
today's hire.
Okay.
Dr. Galucci. Were these the full-time paras, you said?
Yes, that's correct.
So do you think that the trial period was successful?
According to anecdotal feedback from a variety of teachers and administrators, very successful.
Great.
They love having that stability all day long.
And I should mention that the trial goes through all of next school year. Because we got a late start, we had decided that the pilot would be the rest of this year and all of next year. So we have more time to collect data.
Any other feedback regarding personnel items?
I had
Ms. Monterosso.
I just had a few questions on the long-term subs. So what subjects or services are they covering? The long-term subs for the elementary schools and their, yes, and their new hires.
All right, so Lincoln and Hill are both elementary schools, so they would be grade level placements. So basically all subjects at the elementary level. Most likely, and I would have to look at this a little more carefully, those are maternity leaves that we're hiring people to cover for the rest of the year.
Okay.
But I can get more specifics on that.
And then just a general question, what support is being provided throughout the district to long-term subs to ensure students are receiving high-quality instruction?
They are assigned a mentor, just like all new teachers are. So long-term subs are considered the same as a first-year teacher. So they have the same supports that a first-year teacher would have, including support through the evaluation system with an evaluator and a mentor who's assigned to support them in their day-to-day.
Thank you. And then I had one question on the new hire, the career development coordinator. I just wanted to learn more what their time is going to look like with students or program development.
So they are going to work with our other early college counselors and really work with students to help them get into internships. We are in the process of buying a new software that's going to help assign students to internships and monitor their attendance in that. And the career development coordinator will work with those other career counselors and early college counselors to make sure students are in effective internships and where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there, and also help our internship partners make sure that they are supporting students in the way that students need in order to get high quality value from the internship.
Thank you.
Mr. Kingston.
I'm a little late to the party on this, and maybe something we can't do this year, but it's something that I believe we have to do in the future. We have staff that work for us for 30 years, and we basically do nothing when they leave, and I just think it's wrong. I'm not sure what the best way to recognize them is. I think it's something we need to talk about, and it doesn't have to be tonight, but I think we should do something for them, whether it's a luncheon or something, just to recognize their years of service for the community and taking care of our kids. So I know in the past, way before COVID, individual schools used to have retirement parties, because I remember going to a few teachers that I was friendly with, but that's kind of, in my humble opinion, it's kind of dropped. And I don't think the school committee has ever really done, in my humble opinion and my experience, watching meetings, not being here, that I think we just need to do a better job of recognizing people that have given their literally their lives sometimes to the schools. So we maybe can't do something for this year because it's late in the year, but it's really something I think we should think about. And if we do design some kind of program or whatever we do, maybe invite the retirees from this year to whatever we decide to do in the future. I just think it's something that we're kind of missing the boat on. There's a national teacher shortage. There was an article in the Globe about it last week. Every time I read about it, I cringe because I know we want to hire new people, and I know we have to replace people that leave for various reasons. So I really think taking care of staff, recognizing staff, and trying to do our best to be good employers will help us get better employees and help us to keep the employees that we already have. And that's all. Thank you.
Mr.
Ms.
Mayor.
Ty?
In the past, maybe when your father was working here, you might have the memory that always the Revere Teachers Association, and I think even when you were president, Diane, organized a party and invited members of the school committee to go to it. I mean, they don't really want to interact so much if it's the end of their service with members of the school committee. They want to interact with their friends from their own school and from another school too. But I do think that we should think about what we might do, whether it's give a certificate, whether they want a certificate or not, but acknowledge in some way. And I think that's something we could take up privately and come to some consensus on, especially with some advice from the superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ty. Ms. Milbury Ellis.
I recall we broached this topic earlier in the year, and I think it was an issue of semantics, of organizing or figuring out each employee and what their time of service was. There was some coordination that had to happen for us to make sure that it was fair across the board.
Yeah, I was going to say that I remembered having a conversation earlier this year, and we had talked about, Mr. Kingston, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe doing something like for a 10-year, 15 or 20 or 30, and I think we were stuck on like what's the right cadence for that.
Right.
So, I mean, definitely open to do whatever. I think Ms. Ty has a point that people probably would prefer to celebrate milestones like this with the people they love and are friends with. No offense to the committee.
No.
But something, if there was something like a certificate or some kind of a gift that we could give people to recognize their years of service, I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah, I think the issue was the tracking. Like any tracking the number of years, or at least you were going to figure out some way, or somebody was going to figure out some way to do that?
We do track employment, years of employment.
Oh,
So I
so
don't
then
think that's an issue.
Oh, all
Yeah.
right, great.
Maybe one question I would have for the committee to consider is this something that we want to extend to all employees? Because I like to remember that everybody who works for us is dedicated to helping kids. It's the custodian and the secretary who can make a change in a student's life as well, or the administrator. Yeah, okay.
100%.
Thank you. If I may also, I was going to say the same exact thing. The cafeteria employees are just as valuable as obviously the teachers, et cetera. But something that we've done on the city council was annually retired employees from the city being recognized as opposed to just doing it every single month and bringing them to the city council, annually recognizing all of the retired employees, but possibly those milestones could be just an annual recognition luncheon. Everyone gets invited. It could be 30 years of service, 20 years of service. And again, there could be a citation or something awarded from the city school committee. I'm sure, as mentioned, they don't want to hang out with you or me, but they may want to hang out with some of the coolest teachers around. So this would be a great idea. Great idea, Mr. Kingston.
If I said the word teachers, I apologize. I meant all staff. When we were talking about teacher appreciation last week, I asked it to be Staff Appreciation Week because I do recognize that without cafeteria workers, secretaries, custodians, the buildings won't run. And I get that completely. I mean, the teachers are all great, I don't mean that, but if a secretary's out, usually there's a problem at the school because they miss that person. Thank you.
That's great. Any other personnel-related? Ms. Monterosso.
Just one more. as we have teachers who resign in the middle of the year, is there any data or reasons that are being collected to kind of incorporate that into the retention strategies I know the district is developing?
We do have an exit survey for all departing staff. Some choose not to fill it out, but the ones that do, we're able to track their reasons for leaving. We have seen an unusual uptick in the last couple of years in teachers leaving mid-year. It used to be that if you made a commitment to a school district, you honored that commitment, at least for that full school year. If you decided to go somewhere else, it was after June. That appears no longer to be a tradition that newer teachers honor,
Or anybody,
Anybody?
or anybody.
any profession.
Yeah.
It's any profession.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, no, agreed.
Okay. Acceptance of donations and gifts? None? School field trips. We have the RHS Outdoors Club.
Yes, so we have one field trip on the docket coming up soon. And you have approved field trips for this group many times before. It's the Revere Outdoors Club, which focuses on hiking and climbing and physical stuff outside.
I love it.
I know the kids love it. They do love it.
Did you want to go to, did you want to go?
No.
I'll go.
Okay. And,
I should, so you could. If there are any questions on that field trip, I think
Okay.
it's pretty well described. There's no cost to students or chaperones. 20 students and 5 chaperones are going to go. It's their end-of-year event, and they have enough money in their club account to support
Bless you.
that. And they are hiking Mount Monadnock.
be a great climb. Okay. Schedule June through December, school committee meetings. Have we already presented that schedule?
We have not.
Okay.
So typically, the committee will hold their meetings on the third Tuesday of the month. And if that is the desire of the committee to continue that, okay. So we would do June 20th. I'll just run them down quickly. July 18th.
Just, the September 19th is a preliminary. We may want to skip that day and go to the
Okay.
26th. Thank you.
August 15th.
Yep.
So June 20th, July 18th, August 15th, September,
26, that's the primaries.
the 26th is the primary, did you
The
say?
19th is
Oh,
the
okay.
prelim.
Can I have a
All right.
question about that while we're talking about dates? Would that be a professional development day, or, I know it's no school, you said, but it's professional development for the staff?
Yes.
You asked. Okay.
Yep,
That's
mhm.
fine. Thank you.
September 26th, October 17th, November 21st.
Question, is that fall break already? Or no, Thanksgiving?
We don't really have a fall break.
Okay.
Well, we have a half day on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving,
Ah, okay, so we're good.
and then the Thursday and the Friday off. But,
Okay.
I don't think, is Thanksgiving the following? Is it-
Thanksgiving
Oh, no, it's the
24th.
23rd, yeah,
23rd.
yeah, okay. And then, let's see here, December 19th? Okay.
Thank you. And then the last item, the regular meeting agenda items and miscellaneous.
So there's one item under miscellaneous that did not get added to the agenda, but I had mentioned to the committee at our Ways and Means Subcommittee, and that was the, is there a presentation for the spreadsheet that I should have open?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see if I can get that up. Of course, I don't have the folder open. Okay. So I had mentioned that Dr. Galucci had a presentation about a safety device that he wanted to share with the committee. And so he's going to do that now. It might just take a second, there we go. Okay.
All right. Hello, school committee members. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to present to you. As you know, hearkening back to really since Revere Public Schools has been in its creation, safety has been of incredible importance to us. I think that was highlighted nicely last summer with the seminar that was held at the Susan B. Anthony Middle School. We were able to articulate a lot of the things that we do on a weekly and daily basis behind the scenes to ensure that our staff and students and families have a sense of security with our protocols and our safety measures. We continue to work on those. We continue to ramp up our drills and look at our policies and procedures. But tonight I wanted to present something tangible that's come across my desk that I've looked into and think that it's something definitely worth consideration. And it's brought me back to a lot of conversations that I've had with Captain O'Hara around critical incidents, which are the last thing that any of us want to think about, but something that we cannot not think about. So the product is called Flip Lock. And Dr. Hill, if you could flip. And the real power in this product is its simplicity. Specifically, its simplicity during a moment of crisis. It really has two primary safety measures, and it accomplishes both simultaneously during a critical incident. First, a very easy ability to lock a door, which I know seems simplistic, but I'll speak to that a little further about how difficult that can be during a critical incident. And the second is something that has always bothered me since the day I started teaching and became an administrator. We're often asked, or teachers are often asked, or staff are asked to barricade the door, which if you think about a typical classroom, what is available to do that? Desks, bureaus, a teacher desk that's a little heavier than the desks inside. And this is all during, again, a critical incident when time is of the essence and everybody has to think quickly on their feet. In some of the conversations with Captain O'Hara and some of the research, locking a classroom door is probably the second most important act that can take place during a critical incident. The first is securing a perimeter. And what Captain O'Hara has preached to me in many of our conversations is that people often, a majority of people, experience executive dysfunction during a moment of crisis, meaning that the simplistic act of locking a door can become nearly impossible to impossible. Simply getting your key, putting it in the keyhole appropriately, locking the door, and then tending to the students that are before you. If you also think about it, as I mentioned earlier, trying to barricade with classroom materials when you are experiencing executive dysfunction is another consideration. And then finally, just the lack of materials to be able to barricade a door appropriately and effectively. All things that have really tugged at me for years. And when I was able to see this product, as you will see in a few minutes, it really resolved a lot of these things that are on this slide. So I'll go to the next slide. So there are two types of flip locks, and you'll get to see it demonstrated via video. It's able to lock outward swinging doors and inward swinging doors. So we have 315 outward swinging doors on the left throughout the district that swing into a hallway, and we have 555 inward swinging doors that are featured on the right of this slide. So that's what they look like. In a minute, I'm going to give you an example of the actual inward swinging door that was sent to me. So you can feel it, see it, touch it. But first, I'd like you to view this video. It's only about a minute and a half that really explains it all, because once you see it in action, I think it will all come together. Yep. Down the bottom, there should be a play button.
The flip lock attaches to the frame of the door. All you have to do is close the door and flip it, and it drops and it locks. It says call 911, and it says locked. And it's just as simple to unlock. You flip it over, and it unlocks. Hi, I'm Anna Rieger, the founder of Flip Lock. As a mother of 6, I wanted to create a solution to active threat situations. It's clear to see that active threat protocols need to be standardized, and that's why I created the Flip Lock. It's a complete solution to active threat situations. It takes less than a second to activate, and it flips, it drops, it locks, it secures the classroom. So easy to use that a 5-year-old can use it, and it's just as easy to unlock. In 5 minutes, I can teach the entire school the Flip Lock solution. In 5 minutes, I can teach the entire state the Flip Lock solution. In 5 minutes, I can teach the entire country the Flip Lock solution. The active threat protocol needs to be standardized, and that's why I made Flip Lock, because it should be a solution for everyone, everywhere, not just one school or one place. People need to be able to protect themselves in an active threat situation, and they need to know what to do and what action to go into, and the Flip Lock provides that solution. It will protect, and more importantly, save lives.
And so one thing I glossed over a bit in terms of the barricade specifics, it's 10 times stronger than a deadbolt. I believe it withstands 2,500 pounds of force. It's really incredible. And so the slide before you here, Dr. Kelly and I and all of the central office members, when we have anything that's safety and security, we consider whether or not that's going to be overbearing and create a sort of climate for schools. We never want to be in a situation whereby we're having these extensive security measures and kids just don't feel safe in schools. But walking around the hallways, you see that theme of red kind of everywhere for our kids. If they need a fire extinguisher, an alarmed door, a fire exit, a health backpack, a defibrillator, God forbid, in an extreme scenario. So what struck me about this, in addition to the easy ability to lock something and also the barricade, is that it's really non-existent. It looks a lot like the fire alarms that are on our walls of all of our schools. It's small. It goes right next to the door. It's hardly ever used. Hopefully it will never be used. And I solicited feedback from the RPS administrators, and they were pretty unanimous in really loving the product, and referenced a lot of the things that I talked about earlier about that always tugged at me about providing a barricade and having it be discreet but effective. So these are all principles that gave me some feedback. Their top 2 questions. I'll wait to, actually, let me do the cost first. So it is, you can go to the next one. So it is pricey, as Dr. Kelly said last week. The total cost for all of the locks in the district and installation is $270,286. This is kind of going to answer one of the top 2 questions. There is a key if someone locked it and the adult had to get back in the classroom. Let's say the adult was speaking to a student outside for a moment. If someone clicked the flip lock, they are able to get back in. That key and latch set costs about $74.95 each, but where we would be one of the earlier adopters, the company was going to give us those at cost. But that is based on us purchasing the locks and paying for installation of each lock. I have not yet asked if we ourselves as a district can install, but I don't know how that will balance with the free keys that we were promised with this quote. All right, that's it.
Thank you. Start this way. Mr. Kingston?
Hi. Here's my question, Dr. Gucci. My bigger problem, I understand about locking the doors. I don't have a problem with that at first that we're doing now. My problem is I'm going to call them the pass-through door. So you lock your door, there's an emergency, but your neighbor doesn't.
Yep.
Now, as far as I know, and I'll go around to a building with anybody, those doors don't lock at all.
Correct. So that was number 2.
That's my bigger problem.
You picked the top 2 questions.
If you say go to the Whalen and say there's 10 rooms in a row, and one teacher doesn't lock their door, you know, just, maybe they were, their prep period, they're not in the room. It's not that they did anything wrong, it's just they left the door open.
Yep.
A minor mistake. Whoever's in the building now has access to that whole corridor because those pass doors don't lock.
Right. So that's a fire safety is the reason why they can't lock, because if a teacher needed to get out of that classroom and go into a co-joining classroom because there was a fire or something going on, they can. What that really comes down to, and I've seen it in action and it can happen, it is norming locking your door whenever you leave your classroom and you're not with kids. When you leave your classroom, let's say it's your prep period or you're going to lunch, you don't have a class in front of you, lock your door. When I took over at the Rumney Marsh Academy as principal, that was a norm that was stressed constantly. And anytime I tried to do walkthroughs, I'd slam into the door because they were all locked. Like typically I'd go into the first classroom and then walk the adjoining doors. If that first classroom didn't have a class, it was locked. Okay. It's something that we need to focus on. It's something that we have focused on. But I think like a lot of the things in the pandemic, it's fallen off our radar. But you can norm that. One of the other things that Sergeant Turner often says is, there's no foolproof anything. You are really looking to reduce risk, and if you can find something that reduces risk significantly, go for it. So anything that we do is going to have a loophole, but if we're able to norm that with our staff, then those doors are locked and you can never access the adjoining doors.
Oh, and one other question.
Yep.
And I know you can't say with certainty, and I understand. Does every door lock now? Because I'm going to say no.
I would say yes. I mean, it did in my building. I would say yes.
Okay.
And certainly, like, it was very commonplace that if a teacher's key wasn't working, they would come down to the secretary. In my case, it was Andrea. She would call Dee Dee. Dee Dee would get a key, make sure the classroom open and locked.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ferrante?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Richie, a couple questions.
Yeah.
Does anybody that we know of in the area have this?
No, that's my next step, Michael. That was actually the biggest piece of feedback from the principals. They asked me to find a district and see how it's going. So it's a next step. I have not accomplished that yet.
Okay. Assuming we go forward with this, how long would it take them? So we have to pay a company, right, to do it?
That company,
The
yes.
company. How long would it take them if we're doing all 870 doors?
I'd have to ask them that question. I didn't move forward with those type of details yet because I wanted to see what the appetite was here first, but it's certainly something that I would ask for, and if I had a goal in mind, it would be summer, so that we open the doors to this, and they're all in place and ready to go.
Now, just to double check, you said they would give us the keys.
Yep.
First time. So we'd save that $75,000, whatever.
Right.
Okay, all right, thank
Yeah.
you.
And it's actually a key and a little mechanism that goes on the door. I actually clipped the videos a little bit because I don't want to publicize that. I got them privately from the company that shows how it works, but I didn't want to put that on the public. And they are individualized, I believe, so certain people would have a master, like SROs and people that travel between buildings, and there would be classroom-based ones. I believe. I'm not sure on that, but.
Miss Ellis?
So I wish I invented flip lock, right? But all joking aside, I 100% support this initiative. I think that it serves so many purposes other than the actual purpose for which it's intended, with easing the feeling right now, the anxiety right now with kids and with staff. And I just think it's a wonderful investment, it's necessary, and it shouldn't even be questionable when it comes to our kids' safety.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to making this happen. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you.
Ms. Monterosso?
I agree with Member Milbury Ellis. I think as a kindergarten teacher, I had 2 active shooters on my campus, and I know we're not in Florida and it's different, but to shove yourself in a bathroom with 30 students, knowing that if someone comes in, it's you because you're in between students and that person. So I think it's amazing that we're trying to bring things in while also keeping in mind making sure students still feel safe and don't feel like they're in a box or in a cell. But I think my question is, you already addressed the part of there's master keys, but let's say it's not a student who accidentally locks a door. It's someone with an intent that has now locked themselves in there. So has there been discussion on what would happen if that occurs?
Sure. So in addition to our SROs who travel between buildings, the building administration would all have keys. Any type of emergency that happens in a classroom, our administration responds immediately. So they would be equipped with the key to get in the room. Or whoever need be. Like if it is a threat or a danger situation, obviously the appropriate person is the SRO in that instance. But those key people in each building would have access to each and every classroom.
Thank you. Ms. Tai?
I'm thinking of, I think it was the past meeting or maybe the one before that, where we got a letter from Nancy Has talking about the child's anxiety. And I think something like this, I'm not sure how, depending upon the age of the child, how much that would assuage the child's anxiety, but it certainly would work to limit the adult's anxiety. And I think it's great. I mean, I think all through this building, when I was in different rooms, some of them locked, some of them didn't lock. I don't think it's changed much since then. So and even if it has, this is an additional safety feature that we have. Because what you might have been worried in the old days, you never were worried about someone coming in with a gun. You were worried that some kid would open the door and scream something silly inside and the whole class would laugh. And, you might laugh yourself too, but nevertheless, it wasn't that kind of fear. And it's only recently, I mean, we know that from the mental health issues that we're dealing with constantly. Where children are just maybe not even knowing that they're terrified. They just know that there is something. So I think it's a wonderful system, and it would have been wonderful if you had invented it.
What were we doing in 1996?
I blame my teacher.
The final piece that I just would add is I do truly feel like our staff is craving some innovation like this. I think 7 years ago, maybe not, but I feel like they're in a different place right now. I got a lot of that feedback from administrators who responded, and so this is a response to that, and hopefully one of many that's going to keep our community safe.
Great. Ms. Kelly?
So I want a couple things that I want to add. One is that it is a lot of money, but it is a one-time expense, I believe, right? Lifetime warranty. And I just want to highlight what Member Milbury Ellis and Member Tai mentioned, which is the social emotional needs of students. When I think about us drilling with them and preparing them for some kind of a crisis and trying to explain to them, especially the young ones, what it means to barricade a door and whose job it would be to barricade that door and what they have to do if a teacher isn't the one able to lead that process, as opposed to teaching them what you do is you go over and you hit this and you flip that and you're done. I just feel like that alone takes some of the pressure and the stress off of students when we engage them in this kind of safety preparation training. And I'll go back to your daughter, like you mentioned, how stressful it is for them to engage in these exercises. I feel like this is the kind of teaching them how to use this would be a lot less emotional stress than explaining that you want to try to tip over the book cabinet and, things like that, so.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly.
Thank you, Dr. Galucci.
Oh, thank
And
you.
Dr. Galucci,
Oh,
I think that this is, I like the fact that it's low profile. I can see how it should work, and I think that from a company, it's a small amount of money when you consider it in the grand scheme of things. But certainly, if this was something that we wanted to get ourselves into, I'm sure the company would come with even more.
Yeah.
They always do, to negotiate, but good job. I guess at some point, if this is the best alternative for us, a best option, we would probably have a good choice to make. Thank you.
awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Ms. Ellis?
Yeah, I would just add that that's a lot more heavy duty than I imagined, seeing it in person. So, looks, good stuff, Richie. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Ferrante?
Mr. Chairman, if we approve this, are we looking to get this ready for September or?
I'd love to.
Well, then my next question is to Dr. Kelly, where is this coming from?
So one place that we have some additional funding is in our ESSA grants. So we could look to take these funds from that source.
Now, do we need to put it in this year's budget if we're going forward?
So if we pay for it through ESSA, and I will still have a conversation with Mr. Cruz and see exactly where we are in version 3.0 of the budget and kind of weigh all of these different options for funding and come back to you with that funding source. If it was going to go through our regular budget, then yes, it would have to be in the budget. If it's coming through ESSA, it would mean that we're looking at making a grant amendment and getting permission from the Department of Education to change our levels of funding that we've already allocated for ESSA 3 through FY24.
Thank you.
Mr. Kingston?
Related to this item, I'm wondering if we should add a number 4 to our agenda going forward to say school safety? Because it seems like this, this topic is obviously important to everyone and something that may come up in the future. And I don't want to be criticized for bringing it up under miscellaneous items. So if school safety was a bullet point, at least if we had a topic like this, because we'll probably talk about this again next month, I would imagine. And that way it would help us,
Are you suggesting for every meeting?
just a category of school safety, because it's something I think we discuss almost every meeting anyway, in some form, shape or form. Thank you.
I'm just wondering if that would be better in the subcommittee. But, I don't know if we want to feature it on every agenda.
Only because
Ty?
there might be a case, if I may, where we might not want to share certain information. I suppose we would always have that option, but
That's where Ms. Ty and Mr. Kingston, I think it's a great idea, and we can never talk enough about it, but I'm very leery of talking about sensitive subjects. Like, I want to ask questions about this program right now, but I'm going to ask Dr. Galucci offline because, there's a lot of goods, but we also don't want to show the recipe because the wrong people get that information. And as mentioned back when Officer Turner gave his presentation, there's planning that goes into play every single day, every single month that you don't want to broadcast because you're giving the bad guys more information they need to have. And on top of it, to me, safety is part of the nuts and bolts of the school. That'd be almost a suggestion. I don't see education as a topic here. Education is an everyday item. Safety should be every day as well. So it just kind of highlight. I think it could be more of highlighting the negative than it would be highlighting what actually comes into play with the nuts and bolts of running a school district. That's just my opinion. You may, Ms. Ty.
I don't have an answer to that. I'm thinking about the windows. I mean, for example, I remember my classroom upstairs had a wire through the glass, and that made it safe. Yeah, I don't know if it did or not. So, Rich?
So another product that's
Use
come
that.
across is a film that goes over the windows that's now clear, that holds it and you're not able to puncture it, but I haven't looked into that one. But I did get an email on it. And we're mostly worried about first floor windows, obviously.
Yeah.
right? Yeah, so, but something I can look into.
Ms. Ellis?
To Mr. Kingston's point, I agree with what Mr. Keefe has said about the balancing act that we have to do, but I also think it's important to let the public know that we are talking about these things, and we are working to address their concerns, and this is important to us. So I think we should be a little bit more vigilant in getting those either quarterly security meetings for the public. That way we can kind of talk about the things we want to talk about, not necessarily that we want to, but the things that are safe to talk about, and the things that are, top secret in the sense, because it's the right and the safe thing to do, I just think we need to make sure that we're getting this information out, getting some information out there to appease the public, and what their thoughts are about what we're doing.
I don't disagree. I definitely don't disagree with that. And it's about communicating. So, however that is, we should highlight it too. So I think Mr. Kingston's onto something. Whether it's, we probably have to come to some sort of an agreement what that is.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
That concludes our subcommittee of the whole, and we'll see you back at 6 PM. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.